everyone, welcome back to my channel. Carol here at Oak House Journals, and a very big warm welcome from me as always. I just thought I'd do a quick video and show you a journal kit that I'm putting in my Etsy shop. I have this thing when I have an idea for a journal. I get hold of one of these A4 plastic boxes, and until I'm ready to actually start my journal, I pop into that plastic box anything and everything that I come across that I think I might be able to use in that particular themed journal. And this particular box contains everything I plan to do on a sewing themed journal, and the reason I wanted to do one was this little book. This is what sparked it off. I came across this in a antique shop and fell in love with it. It is Encyclopaedia of Needlework, and it is the most gorgeous little book I've ever seen. And particularly what made me fall in love with it was the size. It's just a beautiful size. So it is 3.5 inches by 5.5 inches, or 9 centimeters by where are we, just over 14 centimeters, and it has a 4 centimeter spine or a 1.5 inch spine, and it's just gorgeous. As you can see, the inside papers say DMC. It has seen better days because there's a little bit of darkness down this piece here. It's not ripped or anything, it's just slightly darker down that piece. But this pattern here is all in a very beautiful, almost metallic yellow with dark green. It is coming away here, and as you can see, I paid £8 for this book because I loved it so much. The papers inside are just gorgeous, and as you can see, it comes from the DMC library, and this little book is an absolute treasure trove of anything relating to embroidery. So it's from lace pillows, how to do lace, how to pin up your lace, how to do stitches. It tells you how to do crochet. It tells you how to prepare fabrics. It does have some colour plates in here. It shows you how to do macrame, open weave work, and as I say, it does have the odd colour plate in here. But it is an absolute wealth of information on anything related. There's crochet information there. And patterns, anything in relation to embroidery and needlecraft. And it's almost sacrilege, even knitting, as you can see, it's almost sacrilege to use this little book. But I absolutely fell in love with it and decided that I loved the shape, I loved the size of the book, and I was, just look at these monograms. This is for gold work, just lovely. And actually, when I got this, I used it to do this, and that's a bit of embroidery work, just using straight satin stitch, and I copied the lettering out of this book. But it is just gorgeous, and as I was saying, I fell in love with this book because I thought that would make an exquisite sized sewing journal, and I wasn't going to alter the cover at all. I was just going to leave it as is, and I wasn't going to alter these end papers, and it's got the same end papers at the back. But I'm not going to do that now. As you can see, the top is gold. It's not gold at the side or at the bottom, but it's gold at the top there. So if you didn't want to use this as your journal cover, you have got a wealth of paper sources, information, text, pictures, and etc. that you could use in your journal. So that comes in the kit, as well as everything that I've got in this plastic box. Now, I'm not going to ship in this plastic box because I'm trying to keep the weight down because there is a lot in here, but this is just to show you what I have been keeping to one side in this box. So this is all included in the kit. This would be ideal if you just want to do a sewing theme journal, or if you are a newbie and you need supplies and or thought about tackling a sewing themed journal. So let me take you through everything that is in this box. Now I'm just going to pop it slightly off to one side just to make room on here. Now first off, we've got a lot to get through. There are charms. So there's a little spool of thread, there's a plain spool, a little tiny pin cushion, a little safety pin, a Singer sewing machine charm, a silver, these are all silver coloured as you can see, tape measure, there's a little bronze tape measure, and that would sew on at both ends, so you could sew that onto a page, but these would make lovely dangles. There's a pair of scissors, so those two are in the brassy. There's a spool of thread and a needle, a thimble and a needle there. How cute is that little thing? Another sewing machine and a little old-fashioned iron there. So those charms are all included. Obviously everything is sewing themed. Now I did make some dangles myself, so there is a ball of wool and there's some beads there, and these are on paper clips. There's a button and thread. What else? There's some vintage mother of pearl buttons on an old vintage safety pin there. There's a pair of scissors with some beads, another sewing machine, and again with some beads, all on paper clips, and there's a little dress form there. So those ones are all made up and ready to go. There's a paper Suffolk puff here, so that could be included in the journal. There's a couple of these are kind of fabric snippets with lace and cotton trim and crocheted lace and some fabric at the back, and there's two of those included. What else do we have? Oh, I'll come to that one in a second. So we have these. So we have a mix here, several bits and bobs. These are some button cards that I made. So there's a big ceramic button on that one. And this is a ceramic button that I've made and stamped and painted. And then there's these two little brass ones here, like so. Now if they were too big and chunky for your journal, what I was thinking is you could make your own. So I've included in here some more button cards, so you have some 3 different sizes. So you have that size and this size, and then that one at the back. So I think there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those that are included, and they're all ones that obviously I've made. Then here we have some cellophane bags that I've altered using sewing pattern paper. So you've got a couple of little envelopes there, you've got some sewing themed tape on the closure. I've left long, they've been stitched, and I've left long threads so that you can choose whether you want to have them long or snip them short. And there's a little bit of lace and a rose there. And then this is another one that I've made, again with long threads and a bit of collaging with lace and roses and buttons, and this is the hook bit of a hook and eye. So that was just to give you a little bit of inspiration. So here I have some DMC skein tubes, if you will, and I thought these would make amazing page tabs for on the side of your journal. Let's see. So something like that. I thought they would be amazing on there. Or I thought you could use them in collages, or even for putting round paper clips and using them as decorative paper clips with dangles from the bottom. So I've included a bag of those in here, and let's pop those all back in. That's what I thought you could do with those, and that's what I originally planned to do with those. That's why they're tucked in there. What else? There's a bag of vintage buttons, all sorts in there. Some are wood, some are ivory, some are fabric and resin and all sorts. Sorry, this one's all sealed up. So there's a selection of those in there. There is some vintage French thread that I have in my Etsy shop. In here, I've included this lovely doily. Now, I've used a couple of these in projects that I've done in the past. Anybody that saw my botanical journal will have seen that I've used one of these. Now, the centre here is hand embroidered, and then there's this beautiful, beautiful, very, very fine crochet work, and that's the back. And I thought that would be lovely to include in a sewing themed journal. So that is included. Whoops, daisy, is it going to go in? Pop it in gently there. Take it down. What else do we have in here? Oh, right, I've included some contemporary tapes and things. This is a length of this tape, which is for sewing inside clothing and things like that, where you write the name on. I thought that might be fun to use in a sewing themed journal. There is some of this tape, which is all sorts of different sewing themed adverts, like so. So there's a length of that included. Then I've included, this is some of the Ranger or Tim Holtz measurement tape. So that's like a canvas, that one, that's quite thick. And then there's a finer one here that's a finer ribbon. And let me show you those. There's not much of those. There's about 6 inches of those on there. But this is the Ranger one, so it's bigger and bolder, as you can see, and it is more like a hard canvas. Whereas this one is plain on the back, no stitching, and is fine. It's more like a fine cotton ribbon, that one. But both equally as nice to use. And again, you could use those as page tabs. You could use them in collages on the page. That's the sort of thing that I was thinking of using those for. So there's a little bit of the tape, both of those tapes, but a lot more of the other two. Then we have some little tiny safety pins, gold safety pins, which I thought might be, again, good to use as page tabs, dangles on tags, or just to decorate some fabric that might be stitched and included in your journal. I've included some little tiny seed beads. I thought these were such a lovely colour. And I put them, well, things that are in this tub here are things that I put in here to use for the journal that I was planning to do. So they might not necessarily be something that floats your boat, but I just thought I would include it anyway. If you don't want to use them in your journal, you could just pop them in your stash. But I particularly like those because I was going to use some vintage labels here. And as you can see, it's a good match for the top of this cotton reel, that label there. So that's why those got thrown into my my tub here. Now, in terms of these labels, let me show you. You've got a Coats crocheted label. Then you've got this one that's a vintage 4 yards, and as you can see, not 4 yards, 4 yards for a shilling label. Look at that. Then there's another one here, and another one, and another one. Then these are just some spool cards, and again, I thought they might be fun to include in pockets as little journaling cards, or to wrap some thread round to pop in a pocket, something along those lines, or to use again as page tabs. If you scored it down the middle there and folded it around your page so that you got the left hand piece on one side of your page and the right hand piece on the other side of your page, and you've got the built-in holes as well if you wanted to just include that on a page. With, if you punch out that hole, all it needs is pushing out, but if you punch that out and put an eyelet in there, you could actually affix that to one of your journal pages with, say, some thread and a safety pin with a button through it, and that would make a lovely piece of decoration at the top of a page. So I've included some of those. There's a little image there of a pair of scissors, and then another Coats cotton label. So those are in this little bag. So those are the vintage one. That's contemporary, obviously. And these are actually vintage, although they don't look it. They were in a an old embroidery kit that I had. Now they're usually plastic ones, aren't they? So those are in there. This is, now again, this is something I saw and I thought, oh, I could use that on the front of a journal cover. Before I came across this little book, I was thinking about making a journal cover, and I thought maybe I could use this. What it is it's a padded sticker. So the sewing machine actually comes off the base, and it's a Seven Gypsies one, and it just sticks on, and I actually thought I might be able to incorporate that in some sort of collage on my front cover, but then of course I came across this little book and my whole idea changed, but I'm including that in there as well. Here's a little wooden spool. These make lovely page dangles as well if you thread those up and put some beads on, or you could tie some lovely, sorry, it's my cat coming in, you could tie some lovely ribbons and trims through that and use that as part of your decoration on a spine if you wanted to make a tassel or something like that. These are a couple of handmade paper beads I made with some gold wire tied round them, and again I thought they might be nice as a decorative feature on a tassel for a spine. Here, again, as I say, not everything might be your cup of tea. I came across this massive press stud. Look at that, it's massive, and I thought I must be able to use that somewhere in my journal. I'm not quite sure where. You could use that maybe as a closure, something like that, I don't know, or just a feature stitched onto a page, but I put it in here because I thought that was too good not to find a use for. This is a vintage thimble, and then this is a vintage stitch unpicker. Now again, you might not want to include that in your journal, but what you could do is drill a hole through the top and use it as a tassel decoration down your spine and forget about this bit. Or the other thing I saw ages and ages ago, and I don't know who did it, but on the front inside cover, or might have been the back of their sewing themed journal, they actually had a little needle case, and something like this was tucked in there as well, and I just thought, oh, that was a quite a nice feature, so that's probably why I popped that in there, to see whether or not I'd do something with it, but that's included, obviously. In here, I can't remember what was in here. Let's have a look. Oh, yes. I've just put in here some lace trims now. This is a piece of applique, which I thought might be quite nice to use. There's some trim of vintage crochet lace. It's quite fine, this cotton crocheted lace. There's a heavier crocheted lace here, just a small strip, and again vintage. So that's off an old tray cloth that I thought I might use. And then this is a much longer piece, and again vintage. Some of it is frayed. Now I thought that might be nice to use down the edge of a page or as part of a collage. So there's a portion of that, but as I say, it has, as you can see, it is fraying, and if you like the slightly distressed look, then you won't mind using that, but if you do, then you'll have to trim it. Now this I had in here in the tub, or in my box, but looking at it, I probably would not have used it. I'm not even sure why I put it in here. So it's two pieces of this quite distressed, when I can open this piece up, very open weave lace. Now, looking at it here, I probably would not use that, but I'm going to leave it in just in case, because I know some people like the really distressed look, that they have better imagination than me, and can layer up things so that it looks fantastic. So I am going to leave that in there, but as I say, it's entirely up to you whether you want to use any of these things, or some of these things, or all of them. Obviously it's completely up to you. So that's in that bag. Then in this bag, again, we've got some more fabrics. Now this is a piece of vintage upholstery fabric, and I absolutely loved it because I loved the colours, but as you can see, it is distressed. It's very frayed at the edges. It has been laundered, as you can see there, and there's a hole there. It has been laundered. It smells absolutely gorgeous, having been laundered and shut up in this box. But I'm including that in case you wanted to use it. And these are just some lovely pieces of tray cloth that I have used the rest of the tray cloth in other projects. But I loved this edge down the side here, and I'm hoping the camera's going to pick that up. There is, in that whole work down this side, there is the tiniest of green thread embroidered through it, and then you get this torn edge here, and I just absolutely fell in love with these edges when I ripped the main part of the tray cloth away. That's a single piece there. This is a double-edged seam, and I just thought these would be lovely to use in a fabric collage, and that's why I threw them in this box here. Even if you don't use them, this is another double-sided piece, but even if you don't use them as they are, you could, if I can do it, you can open them up. So you could maybe make small seams out of them. Look, that will open up, and you get a lovely frayed edge on both sides there. So I just thought that might be nice to use in the sewing theme journal, so I'm leaving those in. And again, this might not be your cup of tea, but they're there for you to play with if you want to use them, obviously. So that's in there. And there's more. Here I've got some gorgeous ribbon. This is silk ribbon, and just look at the edging on this. This is tasseled down the side. It's like a fringe. Absolutely gorgeous. It's got a slight stretch to it. It's just beautiful. It's got a little bit crushed there, but that would soon flatten out. And oh, the colours on here are just amazing. And actually, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, oh, I'd like to keep that, but I won't. So you've got a lovely long length of that. So you don't have to have a very plain coloured journal. You could have something that's nice and bright and vibrant. You don't have to go with the soft muted colours as in that fabric. You could go for this sort of colour. Here I've put a little selection of some lovely trims and fabrics in. So you've got a little tiny piece of hand-dyed velvet in a purpley colour, then in that lovely green. There's some hand-dyed scrim there, as you can see, and a little piece of tulle there in a lovely purple, and just layering that pink, that scrim and that purple together. It just looks lovely there. Then you've got some metal fabric here. Now, if you wet this and scrunch it, it will dry in the shape that you put it. And this is a little piece of variegated. It's greens and golds and this lovely red. This is a piece that I have wet and already put it into shape. And if you wet it and stretch it out again, it would flatten out, but it's really nice for doing beadwork. So if you put that on a collage, maybe on a piece of velvet like that, and then stitched little seed beads through it, it is just exquisite. There's another little piece there. Some more of this piece. Another little piece of that. And you only want a little piece of this, but it's so versatile. There's a piece of the gold before I wet it and scrunched into shape. So you could do that. But as I say, with these pieces, if you re-wet them and then smooth them out, they would flatten out again. And then this gorgeous piece of silk chiffon, just a tiny piece like that. It's probably about 6 inches by about 2.5 inches, maybe 3 at the most. But I just thought they would be some lovely pieces for you to maybe do a collage. Oh, and there's another piece of the purple tulle there. So I just thought, as I say, they might be nice to do little collage pieces throughout your journal with. So that goes in there. Then I have these little packets. Now, let's show you. This is a little hand embroidery that I did. There we go. And I thought that you could include that on a page or on a tab or even on the front of a glassine bag. So there's that one. Then this one is on a piece of card, and this is a piece of fabric that's hand dyed. I've blanket stitched all the way around the outside and then some hand embroidery on that, like so. And again, that could be tucked into a pocket, could be a journaling card. You could make a flip or a flap with that, or again, put it on the front of an envelope or a pocket, whichever takes your fancy. There's that. This is a lovely little piece of fabric. It is actually a bookmark, but I just thought that would make a really nice bookmark if you put that on a paper clip and had it as a dangle and then embroidered or beaded on top of it. You don't have to use all of it. The back is equally as nice, but if you wanted to make 2 of them, what you could do is fold it in half, cut it across the top there, and then turn over your folded edge, but back on here with some tea-stained paper or coffee-stained paper and stitch round it, and then you could do some embroidery on it. And I thought that would make a really nice big paper clip to go on the side of a page or something like that. Or you could just leave it as a bookmark you could back it and use it as a journaling spot bookmark if you wanted to. So those were kind of the ideas I had for that little piece. In here, I've got some vintage pieces that I thought I might use. So we have some vintage hook and eyes. Now, I wasn't, the original hooks and eyes are on here. As you can see, some have already gone. I've used one or two in things like that decorated glassine envelope or bag that I showed earlier on. So you could use those in the collages throughout the journal, or what I thought also is you could take them all off and use this as a journaling card. You would need to back it though if you wanted to, because that's the original backing there, as you can see. So if you wanted to use that as a journaling card, you might need to back it. But if you didn't and you just wanted it as a paper inclusion, you could take all of these off and just glue this and probably put a layer of Mod Podge or Ranger matte medium on the top, some sort of matte medium or sealant to preserve that. But I thought that would be quite nice to include and use in that way. Here's some of those little vintage linen buttons, and again the backing's coming off here, but it just shows that they are true vintage. Here's another one, and this is a full card, and these are slightly bigger linen buttons. Oh, I'm not quite sure why I had this in the A4 box, but I have. I don't know why at all. It's obviously vintage, and I've obviously found it somewhere, and I obviously thought that would be lovely to include in here for one reason or another, but I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, that's in here. They don't want to go in together. I'm frightened of damaging them because they are quite delicate with them being vintage bits and bobs. Is that going in? Yeah, there we go. And then finally, in here, these are, I'm not going to pull them out, everybody. These are contemporary garment labels, and I just thought they might be fun to include as part of a collage. They've got all the washing instructions on and things like that. And I just thought, I don't know, I might use those. So in the box they went. So those are also there. So let me just clip these all together. Here I've got a length of contemporary fabric. As you know, before this little journal came into my life, I had got an idea of doing a sewing journal, and I did think I might use this fabric here as my journal cover. So there is a good portion of this fabric, and as you can see, it's sewing themed. It's quite a heavyweight cotton. It would be lovely to use for a cover of a journal. And we have about, let me just measure this for you, we have about 60 centimetres. You just check if that's square. Yeah, it's about 60 by 70 centimetres. So you've certainly got enough to do one, if not two, journal covers with that, depending on how careful you are matching up the designs or whatever, or the images on here. But there is that possibility if you want to use that instead of the little book, and just keep the book as a little treasure, or you might want to make a bigger journal and the book is not big enough for you. So there's all sorts of options here for you. What else have we got? Let's put that to one side. Oh, this is a vintage style pattern, as you can see, and I did think about using this maybe as part of a collage or even a journal page or a pocket. So all the usual information on the back. Part of me also thought that I could use the original instructions, cut these out and use them on pages as part of collages. I was also thinking about covering some of the pages with some of the pattern paper. I have seen people, Sue's Shabby Soul has made journals using pattern paper, layers and layers of that stitched together and pockets, and that is something that has always fascinated me, and I've wanted to try. So that is another option if you wanted to use this for the cover of your journal. But there's oodles there, there's a full pattern there, so there's oodles for you to use, and as I say, it is a true vintage pattern, as you can see by the image on the front. Oh, do you remember those padded shoulders? Good grief, used to love those. And finally, here at the bottom, I've got a whole mishmash of papers that I thought you might be able to use. These ones are sewing related. So this is a birthday card that I got last year from a friend of mine, but I really liked it because it was vintage pattern style, so I thought that would be good. There's a chipboard piece here of an old sewing machine, a piece of Ranger paper showing safety pins, a dress form here, how to be a craftivist, the art of gentle protest rather, but I picked this out because of these sewing needles on there, and similarly on this snippet of paper because there's a needle on there. Another piece of Ranger paper. There's this vintage style postcard of a seamstress there. Actually, she's not. She's making lace. If I look closely, she's not sewing. Looks like she's doing batten lace there. Does it say? Doesn't say. But that's one of the Louvre postcards. Oh, recently, my needle case, I made some labels for recently. And this was my template that I made just on the computer and printed out the names of some of the needles that I needed labels for. And after I'd done it, I was about to throw this into the bin, and then I thought, actually, no, I'll dye that and I can use that. So that's that. This is an envelope with a Singer stamp on it. This is an old vintage book, as you can see, £2.99, hints on washing, unpicking and knitting. It's all about make, do and mend, so I just thought that might be used. How to wash material, how to iron, how to sew, the ABC of mending. So there was loads in here that I thought would be appropriate to the kit as well. There's a piece of vintage music, Oh Can Ye Sew Cushions. I just thought that was amusing. Came across that, gosh, I have no idea where I came across it, but gorgeous colour to that as well. Let me just move that box to one side a little bit. A sheet here about pattern making. So those are all sewing related. And then I popped in just some other bits that I thought you might be able to use just generally. So these I hadn't put in originally, but I just thought if this is going to somebody that is starting out making journals, then this would be something that they might need or not have. So I thought I would include them in. So there's a little wodge of receipts there. There's a library pocket and a card. Customs declaration sticker, flexi time sheet, layaway card, some receipts. There's a wodge of receipts. Some what do you call these? Tickets of some sort. I can't remember what they're called. Tickets. A couple of guest checks, different styles, a little bit of wallpaper, and then various vintage book pages, different size fonts, different images, all sorts that I thought could be used. There's some bags that I thought you might be able to put in your journal. They're plain white, but they will easily dye, and then you can iron them or flatten them under books afterwards. There's some invoice sheets. There's a bigger bag. There's book page from a children's book, encyclopedia, some vintage pages. So just bits and bobs here that I thought might be useful if you are new to journaling and this was going to be your first journal. But if not, and you're adept at journal making, then those are the sort of things that we pop in our stash all the time. And the other thing tucked away at the bottom here, now this isn't included in the kit, but it's just for me to mention, and I put it in here to remind myself. Mrs. Cog does a gorgeous kit called A Stitch in Time. Now this is in her Etsy shop. It is a digital download. You would need to buy it, but I put this in here to remind me that she does some gorgeous images, and these would be lovely to include in a sewing themed journal. So that's why I've got that tucked away in the box. So that is it, everybody. I hope you like the kit. I hope you might be interested in buying it, and if you are and are interested, then it is now in my Etsy shop. Please don't ask me, there is only one, I'm afraid, of these kits. As I say, it was a kit that I was planning to make, or a journal I was planning to make for myself, and these were some of the lovely bits and bobs that I tucked away to one side in readiness for the day when I actually had time to do a sewing themed journal. There are, as I say, a few little extra bits tucked away in here now to make it enticing for you if you want to do a sewing themed journal. But anyway, as I say, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And as I say, this kit is available in my Etsy shop. As I mentioned originally, it won't be coming to you in this A4 plastic box because I want to try and keep the weight down so that the shipping is not extortionate. So there we go, everybody. Thank you so much, as always, for bearing with me as I've gone through all of this. Has turned out to be a longer video than I had originally planned. But take care, and thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye now.